traveling the vortex.
The killing moon will come too soon.
We join the Doctor as he travels the vortex and landed episode number 197. My gran puts stuff on Tumblr. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
I think I put your gran on Tumblr.
You did?
I think so.
Oh.
No.
Would that be retumbling her? I don't know how Tumblr works.
I tumble for you. I tumble for you.
Stay out of my head.
I tumble for you. I tumble for you. It's my best Boy George.
It was a good one. I thought about going there and I thought, no, it's far too early in the show to be that silly.
And that's where I went. For the silly.
How's everybody?
Pretty good. How are you guys?
Just fine.
Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Sean, you never go first.
Sean never goes first.
I watched 2 movies this week, other than school and work. And one was mildly disappointing, which is I got an advance copy of A Million Ways to Die in the West, which actually releases Tuesday of this coming week. It was okay. It wasn't.
I heard the best part was the Doc Brown cameo.
Well,
which they kind of spoil in the trailer. If you see the full-length trailer.
I hadn't seen that trailer, but it was spoiled for me by somebody else, so I kind of kept waiting for it to show up. And then it did show up, and it was finally there. And it was awesome, don't get me wrong. I give Seth MacFarlane and team full props for doing a Western. It is an authentic Western. It is very steeped in the feel and the customs and the tropes and the traditions and all of the stuff that we love about Westerns are in this movie. Unfortunately, it also has the pacing of a Western, which when you're doing a comedy doesn't... There's a really, really awesome joke, and then it goes for about an hour before anything else happens. And then there's another really awesome joke. And unfortunately, those are all in the trailer, except for the Doc Brown one. The other thing that I kind of came away with it is... Seth's character is very contemporary. He's himself, but he's in the Old West. And I kind of kept waiting for the time travel joke that he had been misplaced and, stuck there or something to explain it. And he's not. He's just a contemporary guy in the Old West. And it's, I think, probably 5 minutes in that he goes on this pretty hysterical rant about why the West sucks and all the different ways that you can die. You can die from the doctor, you can die from this, you can die from this, and, the disease of the weak club that they have going on there. But they do this before...
Which was in the trailer.
Before anybody really dies. So then it's kind of like, I think this came a little too early for him to be this agitated. But aside from all that, was it worth watching? I'm glad I saw it, but yeah, it's... you really have to be kind of a fan of the Family Guy style humor, and of Seth MacFarlane's in particular, in order to appreciate it. I thought everybody did a great job. I mean, there were, like I said, a handful of really, really funny gags that were unfortunately couched in this just not so funny movie. Mm-hmm. So that was mildly disappointing. And then we watched Transformers: Age of Extinction.
Should I ask the question? Why?
Keep in mind, I still have not seen the third film, so...
That's on Netflix, isn't it?
No.
It fell off?
No, because when Age of Extinction was getting ready to come out, I thought, all right, maybe I should watch the third one just to get prepared, and then... Because I was a little excited for dinosaurs, but...
Let me dispel you of that excitement now.
I heard the first week it came out that it's the last, if 20 minutes.
No,
film.
not even that.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow, okay.
Oh, you didn't know that?
No,
sorry.
No, I had no intention of seeing it anyways.
I'll watch it one day when it's at the library.
I won't even pick it up at the library.
Well, see, here's the deal.
Same thing with Lone Ranger and Dark Shadows. I'm not even going to waste my time picking it up at the library.
Here's the deal. The kids enjoyed them, and so Mel had been buying them. And then they came out in steelbooks, so she upgraded to the steelbooks. And then they announced that Best Buy was getting an exclusive steelbook for Age of Extinction. She's like, well, we have to buy it to, pair up with the rest of them. And I looked at her and I said, really? Do we really? Because I kind of feel sullied for having them on my shelf to begin with. So I went down Tuesday and picked up the exclusive steelbook. And I told the Best Buy, he says, you find everything okay? I said, yes. And shame on you for forcing me to buy what I'm sure is going to be a craptastic film just because you have an exclusive steel box for it.
Not in a good way.
No, not yeah. Anyway, the guy's like, "Oh, I really liked it." Of course, I hadn't seen the others, and I just okay, not gonna go there.
He liked it, but hadn't seen the others.
Yeah. I mean, I've had several reviews from people.
It was a quasi attempt to reboot it, wasn't it?
No.
No.
In fact,
And that's the way the promotional material made it seem.
well, they reboot it from the standpoint that Shia LaBeouf's not in it anymore, sure, but actually the events are very directly related to the events of the third film. So, Glenn, you do need to watch 3 if you ever plan to watch 4.
Well, I won't watch it out of order. I just don't do that.
Yeah, I know. So, yeah, I kind of went into it, and I put all my aside because I thought, well, if nothing else, maybe it'll be spectacle entertaining. You know. I'm
Trying
down
to turn your brain off as much as you can.
Yeah. I enjoy good, bad film as an experts, and you and I have certain tastes that Glenn doesn't agree with. And so I thought, okay, I'm gonna put all that aside, and I'm going to sit down, and we'll watch some Transformers. We'll watch some giant robots. Oh, my God. For a 3-hour Michael Bay explosion extravaganza fest, I shouldn't be bored. I was bored.
Somebody put a supercut together of like all the explosions and big fights of the first 3 Transformers films, and it's only like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Bored. We introduced the new family, which is led by Marky Mark. Bored. We go through his troubles and his family and his daughter and her dating. Bored. Optimus Prime shows up. Okay, cool. Because Optimus is the coolest thing in the movies.
Oh, sure.
You know.
That's what
And
you watch the movies for.
They fixed something that I had noticed in the previous ones, which Optimus Prime is the coolest thing in the Transformers films. And yet they managed to knock him out of the film for a good 40 minutes in each one of them. He's in this one pretty much from that get-go moment.
Cool.
I was like, okay, cool. Optimus is at least here. Bored. They didn't do anything. They kind of fundamentally changed his character a little bit. The Autobots are being hunted down because of all the events that happened in 3 with, you know, aliens and skyscrapers being knocked over and stuff. So the government has apparently decided all robots are bad. Kill everybody. Okay. So the villains of this film rotate between the U.S. government, who's hunting down the Autobots, certain members of the Autobots who might have illusions of grandeur trying to take over with or without Optimus. You kind of question that at one point. There's a scientist guy played by, what's his name?
You said Stanley Tucci, wasn't it?
Stanley Tucci, thank you. Scientist guy who he's been experimenting with the Autobots, or he's been experimenting with the robots and basically melting them down and taking the transformium metal so they can reprogram it and do it themselves. So he's the bad guy for a while. Then there turns out there's a Transformer bounty hunter who shows up and is helping the government hunt down, and he's the bad guy for a little bit. It was like, so who's the bad guy in this film? Oh, and then Megatron comes back because it's a Transformers movie.
Well, what's a Transformers movie without Megatron?
Got to have Megatron come back.
Right.
So still voiced by Hugo?
I couldn't tell, quite honestly. Because normally that's one of the things.
For him, it's just a paycheck.
I get excited. Hey, Hugo, but
cut the audio and call it good.
So they go through all this stuff, and the plot's ridiculous and boring. There's just nothing happening, and you're kind of going, what is the deal here, and do I really care anymore? And it kind of keeps building up to this epic climax, and we've got some pretty epic battle scenes and explosions and stuff, and then you realize you still have an hour of the movie to go. And I tried, because did you guys see the Bayham article I posted on how Michael Bay directs films, and they went and dissected all of his...
I saw you posted it. I hadn't read it.
Fascinating video. This kid I don't know who this guy is. He cut together this basically look at how Michael Bay directs films and what apparently Michael Bay thinks is a good shot. Because then they go and they show you this shot in every single one of his movies and how he composites things. It was really fascinating to watch. So now all of a sudden, having seen that, I'm watching Transformers and I'm seeing light posts, because Michael Bay's got a very big fascination with, okay, here's a car and it's coming at you this direction, and then something will move in the opposite direction, and then there's light posts to give it scale. That to him is a dynamic shot, and oh man, there's a lot of light posts in Transformers. light posts everywhere light posts. There's not... I really tried to pay attention as to whether or not this is true or not, but my brain shut down at somewhere about the hour mark. I don't think there's one static shot in the entire movie.
It's always moving?
Always moving. Even when nothing's happening. Even when it's two characters having a very vanilla conversation about nothing. The camera moves, the camera pans, the camera turns, the camera slides. It's slightly off, that weird tilt pan thing. You just lock your camera down for a minute. Just be one scene. Just put it on a tripod and walk away. No. Everything's got to have motion and this kind of stuff. And when you see it once, it's amazing and it's cool. When you fill 3 hours of visual camera tricks, you get bored. Your mind is like, I don't care anymore.
It's like overload.
Yeah. And then the dinosaurs show up. Let me tell you about marketing. There's no reason for the dinosaurs to be in this movie.
That's how they justified making a second movie.
There's zero reason. Zero.
That's what everybody was excited to see was the Dinobots.
Yeah.
The Dinobots. Zero reason. Zero plot. Zero. Just they're there. And that image of Optimus Prime holding a sword, riding a Tyrannosaurus, exists solely so that we can have a shot of Optimus Prime holding a sword, riding a Tyrannosaurus. That's it. There's no... They tried, and it doesn't work, and it's just like, oh, man. Then it gets even more ridiculous because we're on the outskirts of Hong Kong, and we're going to ride the dinosaurs into battle. So they're coming down the mountain slope, and there's acres of nothing on the left, there's acres of nothing on the right, and there's a tiny little, those gated things that are all the rage in Asia, where it's just like the little half circle thing, and then kind of a broken wall on either side, where it's like a ruin of a temple or something. You've seen this, right?
Okay, sure.
But it's got like a circular doorway, like a hobbit hole. So there's one of these out in the middle of this field. Guess where the Tyrannosaur goes?
Right through it.
Right through it. He could have stepped over it. It's not a big gate. The hole is like this big. His head is like this big. He wasn't going to make it through it anyway. Optimus is riding him. Optimus saw the gate, could have steered him around it, could have leapt over it. No. We haven't blown anything up in about 48 seconds. So we're going to crash right through this thing and send bricks flying at the camera for no reason. It doesn't even look cool. It's because the cool reveal was, hey, look, there's dinosaurs in the shot before. There's no bad guy in the shot. There's no reason for them to crash through the gate other than, cool, let's blow something up. And even Mel sat there on the couch going, really? You couldn't have gone around that? So it was like, oh, thank goodness it's not just me being pretentious and overwrought and everything.
Well, Mel said she didn't enjoy it.
No, she didn't. She said she probably wouldn't. And she is a lot more forgiving than I am when it comes to bad movies. That if there's something of value in it, she'll go, it was pretty good. Because she enjoys a really good bad action flick from time to time. Just something that's, okay, sure. Even she was like, I don't think I'd go back and rewatch that one. Mm-hmm. I was like, I know I won't. This is just...
Congratulations, you own it in Steelbook.
Yeah. So
I'm sure it was a 3D Blu-ray only.
No, that's the good news. I didn't have to pay that much for it. But in the hierarchy of the Transformers films, the first one's kind of okay. The second one is abysmally bad. The third one is slightly better than the second one. And this one, I would probably put it right on par with 3. It's not as bad as 2, but it's not much of an improvement. And it was like, oh man, that's 3 hours of my life gone. And I knew this going into it. And then I was kicking myself because I was like, why did I watch this thing? I knew going into this was going to be bad. And I tried. I wanted to be a believer. I'm a Michael Bay defender because I think some of his early stuff is really, really good.
Unfortunately, he became almost a parody of himself.
Yeah. Well, about the time the Verizon commercial came out, awesome pool, awesome barbecue. That was pretty much it. Why is Spielberg's name still attached to these?
He's still producing.
He's still the executive producer of all these, and it's like, at what point?
Because it's a paycheck for him too.
Yeah, but
look how well it did.
I know.
Unfortunately,
people are still going. People are still enjoying them. They're just
thank
not
goodness for Guardians of the
Oh.
Galaxy. It would have been the best movie of the year.
Oh, why, people? Why?
Or the summer, at least, not the year. Summer.
You mean top grossing?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Obviously, we know Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is the best movie of the year. Have you seen that yet?
Yeah. Although it is at the dollar theater.
December 2nd.
Is it when it comes
I will
out?
have it on Blu-ray.
Blu-ray.
So December 12th you can watch it.
I plan to see it.
The statute of limitations up on letting go of it out of the house.
So I'm going to rewatch it over and over with commentary,
Well, you
etc.
probably should, because at the rate Glenn returns movies, it might be a while. Yeah.
Well, it comes out digitally like a month before that, so we'll probably rent it then.
I've been renting stuff on iTunes when they come out.
The fun part of this was getting to work and working with all the cinemaphiles and going, so I watched Transformers and all of them had that same haunted expression that I had. Why? I don't know. And Dylan, who works at the theater, is like, it's so bad. And so we kind of got into it and we rehashed pretty much the exact same conversation I just gave you guys. And he's like, and this sucked? I was like, yeah. And he says, and then what was this part about? He's like, I don't know. It's just, why did he crash through that gate? I don't know. It's just, yeah. So I can't recommend that one. If this was a thumbs up, thumbs down thing, I think I would
Thumbs down.
Mercapiss, I think, is pretty much where I would rank this.
Mercapiss.
I'm sorry, is that too strong? I didn't like it. No, sir, I didn't like it.
At least it wasn't Merca Waste.
Banthapudu. It was bad. So, but this is the thing. Now, honestly, I really want you guys to watch it.
No.
Because I want to be able to talk with other people and go, so I'm not crazy, right? This really did
I believe
suck.
you how bad it is.
I'll probably see it after I see the third one.
And you'll come back and go, it was awesome. I don't know what you were talking about.
My problem is,
I still haven't seen the second one.
I watched the second one and I went, I don't think I hated it like a lot of people do.
Oh,
Don't get me wrong.
I hated the first one.
Don't get me wrong. No, I thought the first one was good. I thoroughly enjoyed the first one. It's not the best movie or anything, not even close to the best movie. It was fun. It was a fun film. And then the second one I put off for so long, and everybody kept saying, "Oh, so bad, so bad." And so then that made me put it off even longer. And then when I finally sat down and watched it, I think maybe that was another thing. The expectations were set so low that I actually went, "All right, that wasn't horrible." There was a lot of things I didn't like about it, but then it didn't get me excited for the third one, so I just kept putting that one off. Someday. I wasn't huge into the Transformers though as a kid either. So that's driving a lot of people our age.
Yeah,
I feel like I need to temper my remarks because I wasn't either. The whole GoBots and Transformers, the whole idea of a robot that turns into something else. Well, yeah, I mean, the whole idea. Well, but I used to watch the GoBots cartoon every Great Blue Moon, and I still didn't get it. But the whole idea of a robot that hides. Okay. You remember the scene in Big when he says, "Why would a robot turn into a building? Who wants to play with that?" That's kind of how I feel about the whole franchise. Who wants to play with this? I'd rather play with a robot. I don't care that it turns into a car or a truck. I don't care.
The only transforming toy I ever had when I was a kid was one of the transforming turtles that turned from a baby turtle to a mutant turtle. That makes sense.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Sure.
But Transformers was a creation of the toy period.
Yeah,
and what the toy makers said was, kids love cars and trucks and airplanes. And kids
robots.
love robots. Hey,
it's a
what if we
toy
put these two
marketing
together?
thing, yeah.
Which is great. And then, of course, what do you do to sell toys? You create a cartoon.
See, this is the thing.
It's not
you
for
know
us.
Me, I'm a G.I. Joe fan. So I was right there riding that cusp of had all the toys and watched the cartoon. I own the Foot Locker of every animated series of G.I. Joe. I have a boatload of comic books. I enjoyed the two movies that were live action. And that's why I kind of feel like maybe I shouldn't say anything about Transformers because I liked those. But it's so bad.
We're sorry if you're a Transformers fan.
No. I am. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you're... Odd Duck Phil is a Transformers fan, and I know he's listening to this and screaming at his speakers right now.
I'm sure
We're sorry that Michael Bay is trampling on your childhood.
No, I'm just sorry that Odd Duck Phil has no taste and likes Transformers. So. You notice how I singled him out and not anybody else, because I can pick on him.
Keith, what'd you do this week? Oh, did you do anything else, Sean?
No, that was pretty much it. I'm still on that, when you come off a really good week and you're riding high, I'm down here.
Well, since it's October, I decided this year I'm not going to wait till the last minute to start watching some Halloween-esque films. And on the first, since they added it to Netflix and I no longer own it, I watched Shadow of the Vampire.
Why didn't you own it?
I got rid of it for some reason. and needing money, I guess.
That reminds me. I fired up Netflix on my computer because I was looking for a couple of movies. And you know how they tier it in, like, recommendations for you, things, based on what you've watched. And then it goes down and does action and comedy and...
Sometimes random.
Right there at the end of comedy was Shadow of the Vampire. And I went, okay, I did laugh at the movie, but it's not meant to be a comedy.
There were some elements that it could be a dark comedy.
Yeah.
I enjoy that film.
Comedy. I gotta watch that.
Not necessarily a comedy.
Although Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein pops up in horror.
So
did you see the new editions? I get the Universal from Universal Studios, the emails, and they had this big one about the classic monster series and blah blah blah, and I was like, oh, okay, they're reissuing them again. I don't care. And then there was
like a yearly thing.
Yeah, well, there was this big blurb at the bottom. It says first time on DVD, and I went, yeah, right. And I didn't look at it. Well, we got them in at work. There's like the Invisible Man collection. It's a single disc set, but it's every Invisible Man film as part of that set, including Abbott and Costello and it's all of them. And then there's a Wolfman set.
Well, the Abbott
set,
and Costello films
set.
are considered canon in the Universal Monsters universe, but they've always been accepted as canon, despite the fact that they're comedies.
Yeah, but I suddenly went, oh, that's what you meant, because there's stuff in there that I don't think even AMC has shown in years and years and years.
Yeah,
but
I was going to say I've seen it all. I've seen it all over the course of years, but I don't have all of it on DVD.
It's nice that they're all in one big collection.
Yeah.
But they're and I say that they probably have aired them on AMC or TCM or something, because over the course of the last 30 years, something would pop up and I go, I knew about that, but had never seen it, so I'd watch it. Yeah, so so anyway, never on DVD, so that's cool.
Following Shadow of the Vampire, I followed that up with another vampire film. From Dusk Till Dawn. So what I'm going to do all month is just watch a bunch of horror movies.
You've seen those.
Yeah. So watch
another great example of a really good bad movie.
I you know me and bad films, but I like that one. I actually enjoy that one.
I forgot how the whole first hour of it, no vampire shows up. It's over an hour. I looked when the first one turned into a vampire.
Totally
an hour and a minute.
A Bonnie and Clyde-esque crime,
which is enjoyable in its own
thing, and then all of a sudden it's left turn Vampireville.
So I'm gonna go through a bunch of, because since Sarah's not a big horror movie fan, I don't watch as many horror movies as I used to. So I'm gonna go through and watch not necessarily some of the upper echelon best horror movies, but I'm just gonna go through and watch ones I haven't seen in a really long time.
There you go.
I think next year I'm gonna do original Universal horror monster movie, and then the remake version, like Bram Stoker's Dracula or Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and pair those up that way. And then I watched the premiere of Rebels. Did you guys see that?
I did not. How was it? I've heard good things.
Did you watch it? Star
no,
Wars
I
Rebels?
didn't. I haven't watched it yet. We've got it at the house.
It's a stronger premiere than Clone Wars got. That's for sure.
The internets have been real favorable.
It was enjoyable. There's a few things that bother me about it, but they could fix it throughout the course of the series. I think it's going to take a little bit for the animation for me to get used to it.
It's in the same vein as the Clone Wars. It's just not as stylized.
To me, it looks like they're walking, talking action figures.
Yeah.
The edges and everything just feels very much like... Because there are other characters that show up that I didn't expect to show up in the pilot, and they look very much like their action figure forms.
I can see
that.
I can see
and it took me a little bit to get used to it and like the Clone Wars, but I like the animation so much of that it's going to be a tough transition between the two. And then today, I got the Red Dalek, the Dalek Alpha, and the 8th Doctor action figure set from my father-in-law. And then today we watched We Bought a Zoo, which was really enjoyable.
I've heard it was great.
Yeah, I liked it. It's a bit more of a feel-good film, which is nice. But Matt Damon did a really good job. Scarlett Johansson, the girl who plays the daughter, was a really good job in that. And the son did a really good job capturing being 14. I don't know how old he actually was, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'd recommend it. It's definitely worth watching. And it was one of those that came out like Christmas time, and it got favorable reviews, but I don't think a lot of people went and saw it. It was kind of
right.
You bought a zoo. How is that a movie?
Well, it's based on a
it's based on
critically acclaimed book.
And a true story.
Yeah,
and so I highly, highly recommend it. That's pretty much it.
What did you do, Glenn?
Watched a couple movies. Ones that I've seen. Well, ones that I've seen and one that I have. Well, Manchurian I talked about last week because I remembered it. I watched Dr. Strangelove, which again I've seen. Actually, I've seen a few times, but I borrowed it because I've been going through AFI's 100 movies of all greatest 100 movies of all time, and I decided that I would go through and definitely watch the ones I hadn't seen on there. But because there's not a whole bunch that I haven't seen, there's also a lot that I haven't seen in a long time, or I've seen in bits and pieces, and I couldn't remember some of the stuff of Dr. Strangelove, so I borrowed that from Sean and watched that again this week. Thoroughly enjoyable movie. And then I watched The Mist, which Sean has been pushing me to watch for a long time.
Which you hadn't seen.
And Sean and I talked a little bit about this already. Yeah, I hadn't seen that. Based on the Stephen King short story from, I think it's in Night Shift. Is that the one?
Have you read the short story?
I have, yes.
Okay.
And an incredible way to adapt a short story and put it on film. It was really well done because it stays to the central theme of the story and then expounds it enough that to make it, a 2-hour film.
Yeah.
Exactly, to fill it out. And it's really enjoyable. I thought the acting was really weak from a majority of the cast. There were people that were really good, like Toby Jones was awesome.
I forgot he was in that.
I did too, actually, until you said that.
I can't remember the actress's name, but the gal that played the fanatic, she was phenomenal.
I remember being impressed by her.
Oh my gosh, she was good. But
Thomas Jane just kind of walked through it.
Yeah, all of the rest of them just kind of walked through it. I don't know.
Thomas Jane was playing the Drew Struzan, who was doing a poster of the Dark Tower at the beginning. That automatically gets a win.
That was awesome. I have to give them that. I went, wow.
Was it Marcia Gray Harden?
Yes,
that's who
she's just a great actress.
She is a great actress all around.
And Laurie Holden's in that.
Yeah, Laurie Holden. But it was solid storytelling. It was well written for the screen. I thought it was well directed. It's just there was some of the acting that I thought was loose, and then the ending is the ending's horrible.
It is not horrible.
It is horrible. And as I told Sean, I would have preferred spoilers if you haven't seen this. Although this movie's been out for like 10 years,
2007.
Yeah.
So.
I would have rather have them into the movie with them driving off into the mist.
Was that how
That's how the book.
Story?
Well, the book has them leaving the supermarket. Is how I remember the book ending. They actually venture out and they're going to go, and that's how it ends.
So they kind of go there.
Yeah, but I would have rather have. I like the whole parking lot confrontation and near everybody nearly getting away, but then they get in the. Here's my thing about movies, and it's just this is just me. I'm fine with them making movies like this, and there are people that enjoy them. But I've gotten to the point that I don't like when I watch a movie or read a book or read a comic book or anything, I go into it and go into any sort of fantasy as an escapism, as an escape from reality, from the bad things. I would rather have that fairy tale or Hollywood ending. Now we've gotten to a point where we're doing all of these shock endings or these really depressing down, think about them, mental endings,
which is fine once in a while.
Yeah, but I want that happy ending. And now when I see a film that's just ends so tragically like this, it's a downer, and it almost makes that whole experience. It sours the whole thing for me.
Yeah.
So 7 was one of those that.
That's one I haven't rewatched.
Yeah, 7 is one of those I enjoyed it. And it was the first really kind of shocking, horrible ending that I went, okay, that's an experience. But now it seems like everybody's doing those films. And this one was just another one of those, although much more. I don't even know how to describe it.
It's almost like some of Hollywood got a M. Night Shyamalan syndrome.
It's not
trying to
M.
do
Night
the big,
Shyamalan
the
because,
big twist
because
end thing.
that's just
happened
it.
Before that,
Shyamalan's good at making the twist, but it still ends up being the good ending, the inspirational endings. There's hardly any shocks, with the exception of The Sixth Sense. There's that big shock.
there
at
wasn't
the
the
end,
down ending.
but there's
I
not
see
a
what you're
down.
saying.
Yeah,
Okay,
and Unbreakable's even the same way. It's not the down
Still
ending.
ends kind of in a hopeful
Exactly.
manner, yeah.
Signs is one of the first ones that ends with the real Hollywood ending because he gives you the twist and then everything ends up great. But I don't know. Those aren't my kind of movies. And so when I see something end like that now, no matter how powerful the story was leading up to that, it kind of sullies everything else for me. So I definitely won't go back and watch that. There's no way in heck I'd ever end. That's another reason I've stopped reading Stephen King over the years, is because a lot of the books ended like just without hope. He has some. He has some. Well, most. I guess I should say most of his like short stories and novellas in that way.
Okay,
Yeah.
that'll give you.
Yeah, the big long novels.
The big ones in. Hopefully,
the whole Dark Tower. You haven't read it, have you?
I haven't read it, but
No.
go ahead.
The whole Dark Tower. I'm not going to ruin the ending, but the whole Dark Tower ending is the same. I invested how many hours in that series? 7 books in that series. I still haven't gone back and read that other one. But, yeah, so, no, that's that. The kids had soccer yesterday. Seems like we did something else yesterday. I don't remember what it was. Oh, the kids' Mason's school carnival was yesterday afternoon.
Oh.
So we did that. That was a lot of fun. We had intended to go. It went from 3 to 6, and we had intended to go. All of us from 3 to 4 and spend time at the carnival, and then Caitlin and Holly had signed up to volunteer to help. So Mason and I were going to go home, and then the girls would come home after they were done with their volunteering. Well, we all ended up staying there for the full 3 hours because we were having a lot of fun, and the kids had a lot of coupons. We bought them extra coupons this year, so they didn't have. Took them longer to get through their coupons.
Yeah.
And then. That was it. Tonight we roasted. So if I smell a little bit like a campfire, we fired up the
fire pit
and roasted marshmallows and had s'mores.
I forgot to mention that I've got my mom up to. She is up to the 7th Doctor in her classic rewatch.
Oh wow!
She liked Vengeance on Barrows pretty good. Wasn't a big fan of Colin.
Okay, so back up then. I don't remember hearing anything after you were going to do Mind Robber.
Yeah,
and I remember
we
the
did
reaction
Mind
for
Robber,
that, but I don't remember.
And she wasn't that impressed with it. So my mother has disappointed me time and time again when it comes to Who. Of what I think she would like and really glob onto, she wasn't that impressed by Matt Smith. She wasn't that impressed by Mind Robber. What did I? She didn't really say much about Time Meddler, The Hand of Fear. She talked a little bit about Hand of Fear and kind of enjoyed that one. Didn't really have an opinion on Tom and that story since it's more focused on Eldrad and Sarah Jane. You know, she said she enjoyed the 5 Doctors, and her biggest comment to me was, "Wow, those Cybermen look cheesy." So that just cut me to the bone. And then she watched Vengeance on Barrows, and she said she enjoyed it, and didn't really say too much about it. But her 7th Doctor choice, because I gave her options for for 4, 5. I don't remember if I gave her options for 5, but I gave her options for 7, and she actually chose 3 and wants to watch all 3 because she really liked Sylvester, and the one she watched tonight. Happiness Patrol.
Oh, Lord. Well, you should.
She loved.
He's good.
Really?
She loved Happiness Patrol. I knew it was right up her alley too. She's always very much a you don't always have to be a happy type of person. It's okay to be sad sometimes, and that's very much the central theme of Happiness Patrol. So she really liked Happiness Patrol. So that made me slightly proud that I've done something right. So the other ones she borrowed were Ghostlight, with the caveat of, if you watch it, you're going to be confused. Watch the bonus features, and I'll talk to you about it and kind of explain it if you want to go back and rewatch it. And then she borrowed Remembrance of the Daleks, just because I thought such an important... But
one.
it's so hard introducing her to all these because she doesn't like Cybermen, she doesn't like Daleks. So what do you show her for all the great episodes, the tentpole ones, or these Dalek or Cybermen stories?
It's true.
So, and she also has, if she decides not to watch the other one, she has the movie in her possession, so she can watch that whenever she wants. So I was just very pleased and proud that she liked Happiness Patrol. She didn't understand why people wouldn't like it. The only thing she didn't like was the Candyman's eyes.
Weren't they supposed to be like peppermints?
Well, they were swirly, spinny, high, like hypnomatic.
That's right. Mesmer.
Which I rewatched
wheels.
that too. Ended up watching that Friday when I got home. That's it.
Well, let's move on to news.
First up in news, filming has concluded for the Christmas episode.
Your note says Christmas special wrapped. And I thought, oh,
they wrapped it.
Perfect Christmas story.
Several people have tweeted about it, including Jenna Coleman sent out a picture on Instagram of a plate of cookies in front of the fire. So, yay.
So Jenna's done now then, right?
We don't know. Nick Frost said he loved every second of it.
Oh, hey, by the way, speaking of Nick Frost, another thing we did is we watched the Phineas for this year's Halloween special, and
it's
Sean and Ed both show up in the story. The story it's very zombie-centric, but instead of it being zombies, Dr. Doofenshmirtz, who's kind of the quasi-bad guy in it, he's not. He's kind of a bumbling bad guy, but has built this... what does he call it? Everything's an inator. Everything ends with an inator. You know, the disturbinator. And anyway, this one is the repulsinator. So it's supposed. If you don't know anything about Phineas and Ferb, he's this mad scientist, and he's jealous about because his brother is like the mayor of the city, and he's always been the one that Mom liked best, and everybody loves him, and nobody likes Doofenshmirtz. And so, what he does is he builds this ray, and when his brother goes up to make a keynote speech, he's going to fire the ray at him and make him look repulsive, so that nobody will like him anymore, and then he can rise to power and take over the tri-state area. That's his big thing. He's trying to take over the tri-state area. And
I like a villain that has his... He doesn't
priorities set. Doesn't set it too high.
It doesn't reach for too much.
He's not looking for the world. He's looking for the tri-state area.
Just the tri-state area.
Tri-state area. And so anyway, it comes up and something happens and it overloads and it shoots him. And when it shoots his brother, he actually turns into a copy of Dr. Doofenshmirtz. And of course, Doofenshmirtz says, "Oh yeah, okay, I get it, nature." Trying to teach me a lesson. Anyway, but what happens is because it overloaded, every time he touches somebody, it causes electrical shock and transfers, so they all become Doofenshmirtz. So there's several, so it's kind of that zombie-esque idea that now we've got all these Doofenshmirtz running around. And so they make cameos based on the fact that it's kind of a zombie-type story.
Nice.
And it's called, was it Night of the Pharmacists? Because everybody thinks Doofenshmirtz is a pharmacist because he runs around in a white lab coat all the time. They think he's a pharmacist. Anyway, it was completely hilarious. But I was so shocked because I didn't know ahead of time that they were going to show up, and it must have been Simon Pegg and Nick Frost because they sounded exactly like.
Oh, they probably did.
Exactly,
they're probably
like
fans
them.
of the show.
And so so when they popped up, they pop up twice in it, and I was like, oh. Cool. And of course, I look at the kids and I think, you don't even get this reference whatsoever. That one was for Dad. Okay, sorry.
In other news, many fans like Sean were hopeful that Ian Chesterton would turn up in The Caretaker. Gareth Roberts has spoken about the issue and why he was not in the episode, saying he felt it would be too much of a distraction and something deserving of its own episode. He said, quote, "I thought including Ian in The Caretaker would be too much of a distraction. I think that's an episode all of its own. I thought particularly after the 50th, where there were lots of references to past Doctor Who, sometimes you just need to put your foot on the accelerator and keep going forward." He doesn't rule it out in the future, though. He said, "I'd love to see William Russell back in the show. It's so rich and so fertile for someone to do. You just have to explain it enough that everyone would get it."
I don't think you explain it at all. I just think he shows up and the doctor goes, "Chesterton?" And that's the gag. Because
Chesterfield.
Or Chesterfield. Or Chesternut.
You have to correct
anything.
Anything that's not Chesterton. And that's where you cut to the Vortex. And we'd all be like, yay! Anybody who's confused, well, by God, they can go look up the old episodes and watch them.
Well, all it would need is a line of, "Yeah, he used to travel with me back in the day." There is a reference to the censor rights in the episode on the wall and underneath the Coles Hill motto on the wall during Parents' Evening. It says, "A great spirit of adventure." So at least there was a First Doctor reference.
Okay.
And assumedly Ian set that
well, because that's what
motto.
the Doctor said to him in the censor rights, which we'll find out when we watch it. Because
when I get there,
I have watched it. I can't wait on you guys.
I'm starting to get tired of waiting too. The last bit of news is
for the censor rights, or just in general.
In general.
Okay.
I haven't waited for 8th Doctor stuff. So, Doctor Who Experience is going to reopen October 24th, rebranded with the 12th Doctor, speaking to you from the final days of Gallifrey. And there's a little 24-second teaser trailer, which sounds
so cool.
very much like
cool.
Lalla Ward to me.
It is Lalla Ward.
Is it? Okay,
Yeah,
I
it is
couldn't
Lalla.
find it anywhere when I went to look it up.
Yeah, it is her.
Awesome.
Yeah, confirmed.
So, a whole bunch of awesome stuff. Tickets go on sale October 7th. If you're in the UK area and want to go check it out, we'd love a report of what it's like with the new stuff.
Definitely.
And the last bit of news is some guest announcements.
Just some more guests announced for Gallifrey 1 next February. Returning guest Dan Starkey, who played Strax. Ingrid Alber, who was...
He's not only played Strax, he's played other Sontarans.
He's played just about every Sontaran ever, but he's Strax.
He and that guy from The Young Ones. I can't remember his name, that actor's name.
He was also in Wizards and Aliens and Sarah Jane Adventures, if you really want to keep going. I thought we were going to run through these. Ingrid Alber, who played Osgood in the 50th anniversary Day of the Doctor. I cannot pronounce her name to save my life, so I will just say Martha Jones' mother. And Angela Bruce, who was in the 7th Doctor story Battlefield and played Brigadier Winifred Bambera. So there's that.
Yep. Exciting stuff. Yay!
Hopefully
All right.
I will get to see some of these people. I have tickets. I have no hotel yet.
We'll have to find a place to stay.
Just kept his body. Might be cuddled up in a sleeping bag on the airport terminal there.
All right, shall we move on to feedback?
Before we move on to feedback, we'd like to give a little shout out to Brenda, who supported us on Patreon.
Yes.
We usually do this at the end of the podcast, but since we've brought it up now, if you want to be a Patreon supporter as well, please go to our Patreon site and pledge. For a very, very small donation, you can help us continue putting forth this podcast on a week-to-week basis. Your support so far has actually helped us to secure a server, which we have finalized, and we will be moving that over. And
hopefully,
on that
no
note,
interruption.
On that note, there might be some downtime, but we are going. It's supposedly the way it works is we shouldn't have any disruptions. But if we do, it would be a day or two at most. We don't think you'll notice any disruption whatsoever. And we will do it on a time where there's not a lot of activity, so it won't be right before an episode posting or even right after an episode posting. It'll probably be late in the week. So we'll let you know when that gets close, so that you're prepared for that if you do experience any sort of gap time or anything in your feeds. And yes, please, we do need your continuing support because a server is not cheap, and it does cost us to continue to keep upkeep. And we should mention that if you are a Patreon supporter, we are putting together some nice little gifts exclusively for our Patreon supporters. So if you want to know what those are, you might need to become a supporter. And of course, there are other ways to help us finance the podcast. We do have an Amazon.com page or a store, and we do have a Spreadshirt store. So if you want to purchase merchandise from those, any proceeds for those, a portion of the proceeds from those, go to us as well. Actually, they go to this podcast. I should make it clear that everything that we get goes into this podcast. So,
no profit made.
Nope.
What's a profit?
That's why we all still have regular jobs.
In other news, I retired this week.
All right.
No, I did not retire. I assure you, I did not retire.
First up in feedback,
unfortunately,
Lisa.
Not unfortunately.
No, not that.
That was an unfortunate placement of that comment.
Unfortunately, I have not retired yet.
Unfortunately, you have not retired. Now feedback. Now Lisa.
Fortunately, we have feedback from Lisa.
And Lisa, you got this in. We hadn't posted. I noticed that this came in Monday. We hadn't posted the episode, so unfortunately, we were already done recording and editing it. So,
unfortunately, so that's okay though. We'll still read it out. Just comment question. Hello, travelers in the Vortex. Just some random or not so random thoughts on Series 8. Listen is an anagram of silent. Nether equals nadir minus astronomy. The point on the celestial sphere directly below an observer and diametrically opposite the zenith. I did not understand the word of that. What's...
because he was sitting on the TARDIS listening. So he'd been...
What? No, that's a different thought. About nether equals nadir, nether sphere.
Oh, the nether sphere. Got it. Okay. Well, then I don't understand it either. I thought I did.
Squatty.
You're too smart for us, Lisa. You're going to have to dumb down your feedback a little bit when you write in. I'm sorry. Continue.
Squatty, a private in the army, a soldier in a private army, or a member of the armed forces who thinks he's the God's gift to women. Urban Dictionary. So that's what they were saying. Ozzy loves Squatty.
Ozzy loves Squatty. Got it.
Courtney. Nick. Courtney played the brig. Hope everyone is enjoying the change of weather. Lisa.
I didn't think about that. I wonder if Courtney's named after Nicholas Courtney.
Maybe.
If so, that would make her cooler.
I like Courtney.
Back to Nether equals nadir. I think she's... I think. Maybe
it's not the strong...
I'm not trying to put... No, I'm not trying to put words in her mouth here. But here's how I equated it, is the Nether... She's talking about, I think, the afterlife, which is what the Nether typically is. Or not even the afterlife, but the bad place you go in the afterlife.
Right.
Yeah.
Whether you call it hell, whether you call it Nether, whether you call it limbo, whether you call it purgatory. And I think she's equating it to nadir, which is the point on a celestial sphere directly below an observer, who might be Missy, and dynamically opposed to the zenith, which might be the Doctor. I think is where she's going with that, kind of esoterically or metaphorically or something. So correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, or let me know if I'm right and make me feel good. I didn't realize that all these years didn't realize that listen's an anagram of silent. That's kind of interesting. Had you ever heard that before?
I hadn't. I'm surprised I hadn't.
Squatty, I did know, but I didn't know that's what she was. All the kids were saying every time they would say.
I got it pulled up far too late last week.
That explains so much now.
Yeah, I did know Squatty. Thank you very much, Lisa.
Thanks.
Thank you, Lisa.
Always good to hear from you. Up next, Phil of the Odd Duck variety.
Phil writes, comment, question. We are going to kill, pause for effect, the moon.
Wait.
You got a minute. You're out of order here.
I'm out of order.
There's an earlier one.
There's an earlier one. Well, bollocks.
Be ready to read that next
Do not pass go. You want me to just take them both?
Do the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'll do comment, question, comment, do not pass go. Feel better?
Like it.
All right. Hey, Hoopekins! The past couple of weeks I've been working overnight shifts to get ready for inventory, which means I've been listening to a lot of Vortex, including going back and listening to old podcasts. You guys are... okay. I feel like every time somebody writes in and says that, we need to apologize.
Depends on how old they go.
Last week,
I'm only
I'm
shameful
so sorry.
I'm only shameful of the first 50, actually.
They're like student films. I was like, they're there, but I don't really want to talk about them. Last night was full of giggles as I got to hear Sean shout, "Umakavula!" several times, as well as hear everyone try their hand at Brian Blessed impersonations, along with lament the existence of mentally challenged cosmic bison.
He
Space
listened to
Buffalo.
Space Buffalo.
So without further ado, 1. Fall TV and Gotham specifically. Thus far, I've only seen the pilot, and I see a lot of potential, but the ham-handedness is off-putting. I'm currently chalking it up to pilot syndrome and hoping it gets sorted out soon. I was aware they're going to plant several potential jokers throughout the show, but honestly, most fans are going to be scrutinizing anyone thin with a flair for humor and or violence anyway, whether the producers planned it or not. I really like the cast, and there's a lot of potential story-wise. Just lay off the obvious villain nods. The Nigma scene was approaching my pain threshold with its severe obviousness.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm about 80% of the way through Season 1 of S.H.I.E.L.D. I assume that means Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And then I'll be ready to catch up on Season 2.
Oh, not the Michael Chiklis.
Not the Michael Chiklis
Movie.
It
one.
could be.
It could be. Knowing Odd Duck Phil, I'm going to say it's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay.
I'm really excited for Arrow and Flash this week, and I'm chomping at the bit for Legend of Korra last season. Man, I distinctly remember a time when I wasn't watching much television.
As far as Gotham, I didn't notice a Joker reference in episode 2, unless I missed it.
The two of the kids in the sewer were supposed to be. The question was the two of the kids were captured. The ones that were taken. The older boy and the younger girl. All I saw this week was everybody going, "Was that the Joker and Harley Quinn? Young Joker and Harley Quinn."
Well, that's not enough of one.
And I got the same thing.
Unless you're
but
looking
that's
for
the
it.
one they were
Okay.
looking at. So
I was okay with it. I just now realized that I didn't see it, so I wasn't like...
I didn't see it
missed
either until I got online, and then I went, "Oh, okay, that
Sure,
with
if you
that."
really want to reach.
Yeah.
All right, number 2. Constantine was the Roman emperor you were looking for last episode.
Thank you, Phil.
It was also the name I kept yelling at the iPod that can't hear me.
You know, ironically, I went home that night and was flipping around to see on Hulu to see when Constantine started because I know it's coming to, and went, "Oh, that's that emperor."
At least you realized it.
I did.
At least you cared enough to realize.
It wasn't even a conscious effort. I had gone home to
It was a
Hulu
subconscious
because I knew
thing,
that Arrow and Flash were starting. Now that was last weekend, so the following week, and then that's when I thought, "Oh, I wonder when Constantine starts." And I went flipping and went, "Oh, Constantine. That's it."
When is that starting?
That's next week as well, I believe.
Is it?
Yeah, or the week
It's the end of the
after.
month, isn't it? With Grimm?
Oh, I think you're right. It is. It
Okay.
is. It's 2 weeks from now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of went home and that whole conversation went. Didn't think about it. But thanks, Phil, for
Yes, thank you, Phil.
For
because that after that night was out of my mind, and I forgot to bring it up. So Phil reminded us.
3, I don't think I chimed in on this, but I love the new intro. I love the clock motif at the beginning, as now the open involves both space and time. 4, the caretaker. I really liked it. I'm perfectly fine with an occasional episode where the Doctor has to take care of something he feels is somewhat menial simply because there's no one else to do it. And Capaldi's Doctor and his interactions with non-companions is always a riot. I feel that while we did see something similar with Power of 3, the beginning showing Clara trying to balance TARDIS and non-TARDIS life was both enjoyable and something worth talking about again. And yes, the Doctor has been more anti-soldier than in this incarnation than usual. But think about it this way. How many soldiers in the Time War and on Trinslor died either carrying out the Doctor's orders or because of those orders? I wonder if his disdain isn't a defense mechanism to help him keep his distance and not get too close. Take a good look at Capaldi's face as Danny calls him out. Pink has him dead to rights, and he knows it. And they've hinted at something bad happening during Danny's soldiering days. Perhaps they're more alike than they know, hence the clash. I have no doubt a lot of this will come back before Series 8 is over. I'm actually surprised Danny didn't report the device he found given his war experiences. Enough time with IEDs, and I imagine any strange or out-of-place object would be putting him on edge. As for the jump, I honestly hadn't given it a moment's thought until it was brought up on the podcast. It was probably the first thing they thought of that was remotely practical, and they went with it. In hindsight, it is a bit silly, but it wasn't enough to take me out of the moment. That's all for now. Hopefully I can get the next episode watched prior to the podcast. If not, I'll just chime in next week. Odd Duck Phil. P.S. Can Sean shout, Hamakavula! One more time? Dive!
What was the jump?
Over the
The hips flip over. Okay.
The flip.
All right, yeah.
Danny's jump.
Danny's jump. Gotcha.
Phil, your second bit of feedback made it in time.
He continues. Comment, question, comment. We are going to kill, pause for effect, the moon.
I think you're supposed to read the pause for effect.
Well, if I didn't, you'd just wonder why I paused. God.
He wanted to make sure it was on. They knew it was Phil's directions, not Sean taking imperative with the content.
Sean takes enough imperative with content as it is. Feels like he needs to point it out when he's being instructed to do so. Hey, Hoopikins! Quick addendum, as I was able to see Kill the Moon, hopefully before podcast time. I think I really liked the episode, but this one's going to take a few more viewings to be sure. It was definitely a game changer and full to bursting with tension and emotion. So is that why I currently feel so strongly about this episode, or was it also a well-crafted story? It starts with a great question that has been asked before with slight alterations in previous Who seasons. Kill one innocent, or potentially let billions more die. Granted, this is Doctor Who, so we all know the right answer. But in the real world, sadly I know my answer, and it would not please the Doctor one bit. I understand Clara's reaction to the Doctor leaving her to make the choice, and while he could have handled it better, I obviously see why he couldn't make this call for her. To make that choice for Earth, whether asked to or not, would make him no better than the Master, Davros, or any of the other who thought that superior intellect or power gave them the right to manipulate the destiny of another species. The Doctor did to Clara what my father did to me, and I'm sure other parents did, when it was time to ride without training wheels. He let go. And like Clara, I was furious and terrified and wanted nothing more to do with him for a while. And I really like how Danny handled the situation. A lesser man would have used the situation to drive a further wedge between Clara and the Doctor. But he seems to truly care about her and knows how much her relationship with the Doctor means to her, so he just told her exactly what she needed to hear. And Courtney. Definitely a step up from the last miners aboard the TARDIS. I doubt she'll be a future companion, but I wouldn't be against it. Alright, that's all for me. Can't wait to hear your thoughts. And Sean's Hamakavula! Odd Duck Phil. P.S. The next episode looks to be companion light, and the Doctor was absent from a fairly good-sized chunk of this one. So was Kill the Moon the Doctor Light episode of the season? I don't know.
Good question.
They seem to have gotten away from that. Like in Matt's run. There really wasn't. There was some, but they were still there. I don't know. I think they better utilize their filming, because while he was there a lot in like The Girl Who Waited, but it was all filmed in one chunk, so he could not have to be there the whole time. So I think they're getting away from the true Doctor or companion light aspects.
They're still shooting
of the filming.
2 episodes at the same time, though, in the season.
Yeah.
I just read that. I can't remember which 2 they were consecutively shooting this season, but yeah, there's one this season too. So, but I'm with you. I don't notice it as much.
I wonder if it's just a matter of a little more clever plotting or editing or something to make it not feel like a Doctor Light episode.
And it could be better budgeted now, because it's a bigger success. And
but that's what I'm saying. They are still obviously still having the budget issues because they are still shooting two episodes.
But wasn't it originally partially contract issues that they only contracted them for a certain amount of episodes? Or was it just they were filming so many at the same time that they couldn't?
No, it was
It was just filming.
Well, I think it was a little bit of both.
It was a little bit of both. If I remember correctly, it was because of the Christmas special that they wanted to get that in.
Yes.
That they couldn't.
They can only do 13 episodes, and so they only get they can do. They're trying to do 13 episodes in a 12 episode block of shooting. Is what it is.
See, but now they're pushing the Christmas
weeks.
episode back too in their filming schedule. Because there was a gap between wrapping season 8 and wrapping this Christmas special.
Well, there always has been, but
was there?
that
Even
still
back
counts.
then?
That still counts as this budget. They budget all the way through to that. So,
Oh,
okay.
you know.
Interesting.
But maybe it is. Of course, I don't know. I kind of
Who
thought
knows?
at times I thought Deep Breath was Dr. Light. So
True. No, I think he's right. I think they've just their time
I
management's a little
agree.
different
I think
now,
it's just-
and it's not as noticeable. All right.
Up next is Chrissy.
And Chrissy writes, "The moon is an egg. Dear Vortex boys, you know, I could write an insightful review about how Kill the Moon is a masterful character study of the Doctor and Clara's relationship that explores what happens when the Doctor pushes his companion too far. I could write about how Clara is totally justified in calling him out for his irresponsible stunt of leaving her and Courtney behind to make a really terrible decision. I could write about how this whole thing mirrors Tegan leaving the Doctor at the end of Resurrection of the Daleks, and hope that the Doctor takes this as a wake-up call to mend his ways and stop treating people like crap. I could write about how creepy the spider/germ things were. I could wonder why Courtney was needed in this story at all, and how I didn't really care one way or another about the other astronauts. I could also wonder if Clara is going to come back and theorize how that might happen. I could write all that, I'm sure, but I cannot. For the simple fact that I am still hung up on the line, the moon is an egg. I mean, the moon is an egg. Like, what? Why? How does that even work? I can't decide if it's brilliant or silly. Is it even really that much of a threat? I've let a lot of goofy Doctor Who stuff slide because I've found other things around the goofy stuff that's pretty good and insightful. But I may have reached my own limit here with the moon is an egg. It sounds like something the tinfoil hat brigade would say. I still don't get it. I'm still not over it. I may never be over it. Just the moon is an egg. Nope, still not computing. Chrissy. Oh, Chrissy hit on my problems this week.
Chrissy did right back in.
P.S. Almost forgot in my The Moon is an Egg induced haze to announce that this month for the book club we will be reading Forever Autumn by Mark Morris. Appropriate for Halloween, don't you think? Details are at Goodreads page, and she's got a link, and we will add that to the notes.
Thank you, Chrissy. Which that's one we've all read.
I am going to Goodreads right now to deliver feedback because I've read that one.
That's one I pushed last year.
Yeah.
I can contribute something finally to this book club I'm missing out on.
Our last bit of feedback comes from Megan. She writes spiders. Why did it have to be spiders? Hey, guys.
Making 1,000 points for invoking the almighty Indy.
Well, at least I don't have to eat my hat now. Goodness, this episode was a roller coaster. The tone was suitably tense and dark thanks to Murray Gold and directive stylings of Paul Wilmhurst, who I'm very glad is back next week. And while I could go on and on about the way too creepy and skittery spider bacteria and how much I like Courtney and the brilliant acting of the head astronaut woman whose name I can't remember, I'm going to launch straight into those last 15 minutes. Putting it out there straight away, I'm very much on Clara's side. I'll admit, at first, when the Doctor didn't want to make the big decision and decided to leave it to the humans, I actually understood where he was coming from. Not wanting another huge planet-defining decision on his conscience, I completely get it. Plus, we've already seen in the Silurian two-parter from Series 5, when another gray area temporal tipping point was present, that the Doctor will leave it to the species involved to deal with. The fact that he completely left and made Clara think he wasn't coming back, and that the Doctor knew that the egg hatching wouldn't harm Earth, and that the planet would most likely be fine, and that he didn't share that info with her was enough to justify Clara's reaction in the end. I don't doubt that the Doctor had the best intentions and that he really thought he was being respectful. This doesn't excuse his behavior, and I'm glad Clara called him out on it. I'm not going to lie. I was deeply affected and tearing up at Clara's speech. Jenna was incredible in portraying how scared Clara had been and how hurt she was that the Doctor had put her through that alone. And I think the Doctor was baffled by her reaction and was completely speechless because he genuinely doesn't think he did anything wrong. I'm very interested to see how things move forward from this point, and I'm curious to see if the Doctor accepts that he's been acting poorly and makes changes. Or maybe things will get worse first before they get better. Either way, I can't wait to find out. Oh, and I love this episode, in case that wasn't made clear. Megan.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Megan.
Was it our turn?
It's our turn.
Well, let's do our review.
Kill the moon. Hold on, I gotta pull up my
You
phone.
didn't pause for dramatic effect.
I'm pausing now.
Okay.
In the near future, the Doctor and Clara arrive on a decrepit shuttle, making a suicide mission to the moon. Crashing on a lunar surface, they find a mining base full of eviscerated corpses, spider-like creatures scuttling about in the dark, and a terrible dilemma.
I have been struggling since I watched this last night with what I was going to give it. And now that I'm here, I still don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about it either.
There are moments and a lot of the story and a lot of the action and the acting and the directing and there's so much of this that I want to dun 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 because I think parts of it were just absolutely brilliant. And there's a really big fundamental problem that I've got with several of them that I just can't quite commit to that.
There's about...
This is one, for me, I think is just going to...
There's about 35 minutes of it that's dun 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 for me, not as enthusiastic as you gave it, but a dun 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 for me. And then there's the last 15 minutes of it that I don't know what the heck to do with. And then there's the moon is an egg.
Honestly, by the time that reveal came, I was just like, okay, whatever.
Okay, so
I was okay. I was okay with the ride, and they just gave that, and I was like,
I'm going to tackle that first.
but they gotta land there for the Cybermen.
There's you all know that I'm a huge Star Trek fan, and Gene Roddenberry, who created Star Trek, is known as the Great Bird of the Galaxy. I'm not really even quite sure why, other than maybe he was the chicken that laid the egg that became Star Trek. I don't get it. But they refer to him as the Great Bird of the Galaxy. Anybody who ever talks about Roddenberry in an interview says, "Oh, the Great Bird of the Galaxy." Yes, we did this. Well, Peter David, who's one of my favorite authors, wrote a series of books that basically kind of stole a couple of different characters from a couple of different ships in the Next Gen time frame, put them all together on one ship, and sent them off to go explore an unexplored area of the galaxy. And they're written with Peter David's very tongue-in-cheek style. He's not quite to like Douglas Adams humor, but there's a lot of moments in his books that you find yourself laughing out loud as you're reading the book. And the first set of 4 stories that kind of make up the first, it's technically 4 novels, but they're small enough, it's really kind of one big story, deal with a planet that is in this disputed territory and people are fighting over it, and then it turns out that it is an egg. And the planet hatches, and out emerges the great bird of the galaxy. And I laughed my head off because it was like, this is so meta, and only a Star Trek geek would get it. And I love it. It's awesome. And it was so much fun that I didn't put any thought into what laid the egg. I don't care. It's just the planet turned out to be an egg, and you were all fighting for nothing. So when we got to that moment in Doctor Who, and he says the moon is an egg, I just went... it was touchdown Miami. It was fun. It was so... And it fits. It's a Doctor Who thing. It's so totally a Doctor Who thing. Only Doctor Who could do this, other than Peter David in a Star Trek book. It's just that nutty of an idea that's like, yeah, why not? You know?
It wasn't until afterwards that I thought, well... I kind of formed the thought while watching it. So it took how long to hatch? Really?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense to me. Why? How long? That's a ridiculous gestation period. I think if I would have...
Sadly, that wasn't one of my problems.
I think I would have swallowed the whole idea a little easier if dinosaurs...
It's obviously not terrestrial.
Well, if dinosaurs had... That's what killed the dinosaurs.
Hang on a moment.
In combination of what happened previously.
We don't know.
In combination of Adric.
Well, that's true. We do know. We don't know how many
we don't know anything about this. Yeah,
the moon has hatched.
That's the thing.
This is the first time in recorded human history that it's hatched. So you're okay with it being an egg, but not okay with the gestation period of 4 billion years.
That seems a little ridiculously long. Maybe every couple thousand years. Because they could have tied the egg hatching previously to the basis of religions.
Why can't it have a 1,000,000-year gestation period? I don't understand.
I just have a hard. That's my point. Chrissy's is the moon has an egg.
That's your hang up.
That's my hang up.
A 1,000,000-year gestation period.
It's a
That wasn't a million. It was billions of years.
Is it billions?
He said something about billions of years alongside your Earth.
I thought he said millions of years, but
I don't know how old the moon is at this point. So
I don't know either. You could have said millions, and I heard billions with a Scottish accent.
The gestation period of the moon. I'm not laughing at you. I swear I'm not.
I am.
The statement alone is funny.
Sorry.
I expect you to laugh at that.
Things I never thought I'd do. Gestation period of the moon.
That statement's funny.
There's your episode title right there.
Was going to be Great Bird of the Galaxy until he came along.
Well, the Doctor Who, I think it's the Great Tick of the Galaxy, or Parasite, whatever it was. I don't know. I just didn't have a problem with it. And maybe it was because I was forearmed with Great Bird of the Galaxy that I went into that. But
even the hatching part, and I still thought, okay, there still needs to be a moon there, or else there's going to be huge problems. And then it fixed itself, and I was okay with it. It was just that initial building to the hatching. I was like, really?
I would think that's more of the problem that you would have than any of it, that it has a however long gestation period as an egg, and then it finally hatches and immediately lays another egg. That to me is...
I think at that point I just swallowed... I think at that point I just swallowed the idea of the gestation period and was just like, whatever.
Well, Tribbles are born pregnant.
Well, that's
Star Trek.
That's why it has to have such a long gestation period. Because it's also got a very long pregnancy.
Because it's got to hatch a second one, or I guess it's
got to lay a second one.
Yeah, lay a second one, and impregnate itself.
Do you think? See, I'm
glad we went with the egg first. The rest of the episode was great. It was creepy. It was dark. It was thrilling. I liked Courtney. I didn't think I was going to when she showed up again, and I didn't realize it.
Even though I'd seen the last episode,
even though I'd seen the previews, when she showed up again, I was shocked, and I thought, "Oh, I'm not going to like her. She's going to be one of Clara's wards that we had in Artie and what's her name from the last one." And I thought, oh no!
Last time we thought we
thoroughly enjoyed her. I thought she was.
Did we talk at all on?
There were.
It was a good
she
character.
Grew on me too.
Yeah, well, it was a good character.
I didn't like her at first, and then she came.
That's why it was good character development.
She couldn't deal with it and left and posted things to Tumblr and came back. And
I've seen people post, what was the point of this character? And I don't know why you didn't see that. The point of this character was that it was a learning experience for the Doctor. It was a teaching experience for Clara. It was it was a teaching experience for the Doctor in the long run. It was a counterpoint in the decision making, and she was really the smartest person in the whole place.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was wonderful character.
She's the one that swallowed the idea that it was an egg easier than anyone else.
Had no problem with it. I'm sure she would have had no problem with the gestation period either.
Well, she didn't mention it, so I'm assuming not.
Did we talk about this on mic? Oh God, it just flew out of my head. Back up what you just said about the kids, Artie and
I can't remember the other girl's name. Artie Maitland and I only remember Artie because I played with him in Doctor Who.
Yeah, well, I still don't like her. You're stupid. Anyway, apparently there was a different end game for the kid story arc in that. And it was the realization that Stephen Moffat was going to have to figure out a new way around Christopher Eccleston not appearing in the 50th that caused them to create the War Doctor, and it truncated Gaiman's story in order to get into that lead-in. So there was a fundamental behind-the-scenes problem with why that episode kind of fell apart at the end. Angie.
I did not know that.
I don't remember where I don't remember when I read that, but yeah, it was apparently it all stemmed from the fact that everything was apparently moving ahead. That's what Moffat he had talked to Chris and kind of got a soft commitment on. Yeah, okay, we'll see. So he started planning and putting everything in motion and wrote it that way. And then when Chris bailed, he had to turn around and okay, now what? Because I've got this slot for the Doctor that I don't have a Doctor, so he invented the War Doctor at that point. But then in order to introduce the War Doctor, they had to cut Nightmare and Silver short in order to be able to set up the pieces to still make sense.
Interesting.
I did not know that. That's cool.
So there's a part of me that kind of hopes that
he'll do a novelization.
Yeah, something that'll fix it. Because I agree with you guys, I didn't like those kids at all. And, Neil Gaiman writes wonderful kid stuff, so I hope there's got to be a reason for that. But
well, we kind of theorized that there was some sort of behind-the-scenes issue with the kids anyways.
So there was that. Okay, so
where were we before that?
Everything else was wonderful.
Everything was wonderful. There was little problems. Most of it was wonderful.
I liked Courtney. I really
You liked her last week.
I liked her last week, but this episode really kind of showed.
I was fine with her last week. I thought I wasn't going to like her this week.
This episode to me kind of showcased. This is what I was hoping for, is I wanted that character arc to, I wanted to see Courtney develop and become, come along a little bit further.
Get some growth.
And, we get a gag right off the bat with, I brought Windex to clean up the spillage. And then it becomes useful when she's killing spiders with it. It's like, oh, this is so
Kills
cool.
99% of germs.
Yeah, So, that was great. And I really...
And that she went and got the Vortex manipulators or seasickness things.
Yep.
Yeah. There were so many nice little moments, and I liked the fact that because she's still a kid and she was like, I don't want to be here anymore, that this is not cool, and so they go and they lock her up in the TARDIS. But then when things get to the point, which is
what they should have done in Nightmare in Silver,
but then when things get to the point where it's at that level of, the adults are talking, and then all of a sudden it's the kid going, well, hey, I don't want to go to bed yet. I need to be part of this conversation, and that they allowed her to come back and take an active role in that. I thought that was so cool.
Well, they didn't treat her like
a kid.
Yeah.
They understood how to treat her and didn't leave her out of the loop, and I liked that. I thought it was really well. And for all those people that are complaining that, I've been on the internet. There's a lot of people who are complaining about, she was all whiny and she was scared and she had to go back. She's not going to make a good companion. To heck with you. She's a 14-year-old girl.
Yeah.
And I know young kids, and when they get scared, and you have to treat them with kid gloves. And it was handled very well. And then when she was ready to take interest in what was going on, they allowed her to come back in and take an interest in what was going on.
What they did really smart with her was they didn't make her a bratty snot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly
which is what I felt like she was in the previous episode, in the previous episodes where we saw her, which is why I didn't like her. I didn't want her on the TARDIS.
I know you're exactly what you're saying, and I think that's why I thought, because I didn't have a problem with that element in the Caretaker, because it was such a small moment and such a small role that it was okay that she could be bratty. She could fill that trope,
So long as she doesn't.
Then when she shows up again, I thought, now let's not go there and have that brattiness pulled onto the TARDIS, and she wasn't. And so I was much pleased by that.
Also, no gymnastics.
Nobody leapt over any spiders.
At no point did she grab a parallel bar and kick a spider into orbit. So I was the 1,000 points right there for figuring this out. No, I thought everything about that was really cool. And it, like you said, that kids get scared, and I'm sorry. I think it'd be kind of nice to have a proper scared companion again.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's so gung-ho usually.
It's been a while since we've had to deal with deep-rooted terror. that the companion was feeling, that we lived vicariously through that.
Especially coming on the heels of Clara and Danny's conversation of you weren't scared and you should have been scared during that whole thing. So it's nice to see somebody scared again.
Yeah. In a way, I think that's really kind of cool. So maybe this is the end of it. I don't know, but I'm sure Clara will never let Courtney near the TARDIS again at this point.
Oh, yeah.
After the way that wound up. But I thought that was very cool. Now, this is one of those things, and I'm going to come out and say this, but I want everybody listening to know that I'm putting on my kid gloves because I'm going to try and be very diplomatic about how I'm approaching this subject. I don't know about you guys. I don't know about anybody else listening out there. I very much felt like we had an abortion allegory going on with this.
There was a little bit. Sarah mentioned it while watching it.
I thought.
So you're not the only one who thought that.
I don't think it was a little bit. I think it was very overt and very strong that it was, we can kill this life form or not, and that there was this whole thing. And from the standpoint that, okay, if we're going to go there with it, my personal politics would really fall pretty much very on par with the Doctor's, that this isn't my decision.
Oh, yeah.
This is something that you need to figure out. And I think it's very interesting that the decision was left to 3 women. Mm. That's who the story, is following, and their, rationales for doing things, to the point where he even leaves the room. he leaves the planet. He leaves everything. He's gone. And so I can understand and kind of agree with that. Now, I don't understand the rationale of putting Clara through that alone, at not being supportive. And I thought all of the people who wrote in tonight, they gave him some wonderful reasons and some rationales, and it's kind of helped me a little bit. But one of the things that I was struggling with this episode is when Clara calls him out, deservedly so, the look on Capaldi's face is so utter bewilderment that he does not understand that he did anything wrong, and he does not understand why she's upset, and he just literally doesn't get it.
Yeah.
That, honest to God, scared me. I am excited by this move to a more alien Doctor. Don't get me wrong. But I almost, it's as frightening as it is exciting. Because you cannot tell me that in 2,000 plus years of traveling with mostly human female companions that he hasn't picked up on some of this. And I worry that we're maybe pushing that boundary in a direction that it's there's got to be a different way of allowing him to be alien without having him be a complete jerk. And what he did, despite all the rationale and maybe I'm wrong, I'm frequently am, but that's the part of it that I'm just having the hardest time wrapping my head around, because there was so much of his dialogue as he was saying it. I just had these alarm bells going off in my head, going, no, that's not the Doctor. That's not the Doctor. And I remember Stephen Moffat, somebody asked him, they said, well, how do you write for this Doctor versus that Doctor? And he said, you don't. You just write for the Doctor and the actors do the rest. But so much of what Capaldi said in this episode, I could not hear Tom Baker saying.
Although
I could not hear Matt saying.
On the beach, I could hear anybody else saying.
I could, yeah.
But you were talking
specifically
about
Tennant, but the
posts.
That's the actual basis for his argument of not getting involved.
Yeah.
I listened to it and listened to it and listened to it. I couldn't hear anybody else come up with that same rationale. And I know he's a different man. I know, obviously, but I think it's part of a bigger theme and a bigger storytelling method that Moffat is using for the entire season. So I think it's a small element that I can't form a decision on it yet. Because I hope so. I hope that's where we're at. I don't think
we're done with it. I think the fallout is going to change our perspective of that scene.
I hope
his
so.
Rationale
I really
and Clara's
hope
reaction.
So, because
I think it's all going to play into it.
I really hope so, because I'll be honest, it was really kind of a turnoff. at that point for like, I don't know how I feel about this.
Well, and it was kind of foreshadowed from last week.
Yeah.
So that's what makes me think it's going to be a bigger thing.
And we talked about this at the beginning of the season, that these two personalities were not going to peacefully coexist for long, that there was eventually going to be some sort of build-up to this kind of moment, and it just happened to be this. And going back to touch on the abortion thing for a moment, the other thing that I thought was a little, I don't want to say odd, but it struck me funny, is I genuinely like my Star Trek to do social allegory stories and to come out and do something that's actually a contemporary story, but it's set in a science fiction motif, and you're kind of getting that play on it. And I always think that's really cool. I'm not sure how I felt about my Doctor Who doing that. And maybe I'm the biggest hypocrite in the world for saying that, but Doctor Who for me has always been whimsy, and it's an escape, and it's, that's why the moon is an egg. All right, cool. Yeah, I can totally be there with that. But it seems odd that that moment is couched in this heavy drama for the most of the episode. I don't know. Am I wrong or am I misguided?
I think there are a lot of times when Who is whimsy, but there are still a lot of times where there's a lot of allegory in it. I mean, look at Genesis of the Daleks. Look at Happiness Patrol. I mean, there are a lot of episodes throughout, while there are fun romps and just monsters, even sometimes the monsters are allegories, like Cybermen. I mean, it may be heavier-handed maybe in Star Trek than in Doctor Who, but I think the allegory is in Doctor Who just as much.
Number one, I did not see the abortion allegory, but now that you point it out, I can see that being a possibility, although I didn't get that from it, and I didn't feel at the time I didn't feel like that was where they were going. Now, quite possibly could, and it makes me think twice about that scene that you've brought that up, but I'd have to ponder on that a little more. I've spent a good chunk of this podcast over the last 3 years being the one saying, "That's not my doctor. It doesn't feel like Doctor Who." I'll come right out and say that I've been the one that's been probably the most vocal about the doctor wouldn't do that, or this isn't a doctor thing, or this. And for once in my history of watching Doctor Who, I'm actually taking this season and going, I don't care that that's not how the doctor is, because. And I don't know, I can't exactly put my finger on why, but I'm thoroughly enjoying, and it's not just because I've got this apparently man crush on Peter Capaldi.
He's your Nathan Fillion.
But I like where we're going. I like where he's going with this. I like where Moffat's going with the storytelling. It feels like an evolution, and I think maybe this is part of the reason why, is because Doctor Who for 50 years has been the Doctor is this way. The companions are this way. The story goes this way. And now, suddenly I'm seeing that we can kind of evolve television, and we can evolve elements of Doctor Who in such a way that I hadn't considered or thought, that it's almost refreshing to see kind of a new approach. Kind of a Doctor that is prickly, that sets me off, that is a little, off the rails, and sets the whole series just off kilter a bit. The whole thought and idea of what we have supplanted in our minds, that the doctor has to be a certain way, the doctor has to do certain things, and by putting that on tilt, because he hasn't distanced himself from those traits that we recognize, but he's just slightly off a lot of times, and he makes us think, and he makes that I'm actually enjoying that. And Keith said it very well, that I think that Moffat is formulating this entire motive and arc over this season, that we still haven't got to that point, and I don't want to formulate a decision on these little things that they bother me too deep inside. I'm not as upset or bothered by them, maybe because I'm trying to look at the whole picture, but there are the little moments that kind of I go, ooh, that's not quite the Doctor. Ooh, that's not very Doctor-like. I
hate to be that fan,
but I'm with Keith. I think there's an overall thing that this is going to be a life lesson for this regeneration, that something's going to snap. But on the flip side of that, I also like the fact that we're evolving and we're trying new things and we're doing something just a little bit different with Doctor Who we just got done celebrating a 50th anniversary. So
in a way,
let's go somewhere a little different. It's probably going to ruffle a lot of feathers. It's probably going to upset a lot of fans, and we might see a division, even more so than we have since the new series came back. But I'm ready to kind of ride that out and see where we go with it. And so the majority of this episode to me felt like a Doctor Who episode, and I think you were saying that as well, is that there were a lot of things in it that was like, this is very Doctor Who.
Oh yeah, we had scary spiders. We were on the moon.
Who wrote, did Moffat write this one?
Moffat did not write
this. This is only the second one this season where his name's not on.
Not on it. So, and I like the idea, maybe because, well, again, I don't think we had any. We didn't have any Missy this time, did we?
Nope.
No. Okay. Anyway, which is probably knows why.
Wow, people.
But I like this.
You're right.
I like painting this idea of difference. Now, my thing that I come. Oh, go ahead.
And it's different, but not at the same time. Because last week or a couple of weeks ago, somebody pointed out how he's much more like the first Doctor. It's almost like going back to the original roots of the character in this incarnation, and so that's how I kind of see the way he reacts sometimes. Is that's kind of how William Hartnell would have reacted in some situations.
Well, and I think there's a part of it that I've really been dwelling on this a lot since last night, and I think part of it is moving away from. We've had a pretty good 7-year span of fanboy gushing over the Doctor. The way RTD wrote the Doctor, it was always this epic, mythic, the oncoming storm, and there was always this awe in people's voice when they talked about this mysterious figure in the blue box. And we as fans were right there.
We were those people
because we were those people. Yeah. We were along for that ride. And so when they talked about he's the fire and ice in the heart of the storm, he's wonderful, and it's like, you get it. And we got that. And then we had the fairy tale elements of the Matt Smith years, which were very whimsical and that kind of stuff. And so to step away from all of that and kind of go this direction, where there's a part of me, when Clara and the Doctor had the discussion about it, you told her she's no one special. Well, she isn't. And it's just like, oh.
That's something that I was kind of like, well, how many times has the Doctor always said everyone's special?
And that flies in the face of...
That's exactly where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
That's exactly where I'm coming from. Is let's do something different. Well, how many times has the Doctor reassured people that are special? And I almost come to expect it.
900 years of space travel. I've never met someone who wasn't important.
Right.
And it's so all of a sudden do that. Now then he turned around and put her as the first woman on the moon. But still.
That's just it.
But that's to make it up to her.
But I think that is a little element of what is going to happen for the entire overall series this season. Is the idea of you're getting little glimpses of the Doctor's learning how to basically be human again. That's the cool thing about this Doctor is so alien that he's having to learn how to be human again. We had such a human Doctor by the time we got to Matt Smith. Yes, he did quirky things that made him feel alien, but he was more human than humans.
Alien, yeah.
We talked about how the humans are always terrible. The humans make bad decisions. The Doctor has to make sure that they keep their humanity. And now we've turned that on its ear. The Doctor doesn't have the humanity that we've seen for so many years. And I like that. And he's learning. I think he's learning to find that humanity again. And so I like that. I'm liking this trip. I'm enjoying that. I think I think he's an isolationist too. I think he'd be happier without a companion in some respects. But he knows that he needs
it to be.
He needs but he also I think he needs Clara because he's used to it too.
Well, yeah.
And because he genuinely, you can tell he wants Clara to be there to help him to do things. Because I think, first of all, he realizes he could be reckless, and number two, this is the first time since David Tennant's Doctor went off by himself that I keep thinking, the Doctor needs a companion again because he's really, he won't just get bored and shave off his head and hair and eyebrows. He'll actually do something that he probably will regret. Yeah.
And how much of it is the crutch that he really feels like it has to be Clara versus
getting somebody new.
Yeah.
So,
well, and also in the season, going back to what you were saying about allegory and comparing it to new series, I can see what you're saying a little bit. That new series wasn't as allegory heavy as I think classic series was. And so it's a kind of a return to that kind of story.
Well, and I think classic series too, when they would do, I mean, you mentioned Genesis of the Daleks, which definitely the Genesis of the Daleks is
There are some you have to
World War
stretch for a
II,
bit
Hitler,
more.
and Nazis.
Yeah.
But
Even the Silurians, I think.
we're dealing with something
and
that's
the mutants was imperialism and racism, and there were.
I think there's a lot more political writings in the classic series than there are
especially in
the
the
new
Pertwee
series.
era.
But they're also, at least in my mind, they're more historical allegories versus modern day.
They're only historical
Instead
to
of the
you because you didn't live in the time. Because if you look at Pertwee's era, a lot of the stuff was being written about apartheid was happening at the time. You had a lot of environmental things. If you look at the Green Death,
I suppose that's true.
That all was being written. Beside. In fact, all these writers were writing allegory into it because they were so frustrated with what was going on in the UK at the time that this was a way to kind of vent that kind of frustration and make a look at the other side of things without out and out saying it.
Okay, I'll give you that.
And there's not a lot of the new series that I can think of that is the allegory. The only thing that I can think of, only because it's such a close adaptation or remake of the Silurians, is the two-parter from Series 5.
Well, I think the whole church as an army idea was an allegory. And
to some extent. It's
to
just
some
not
extent, yeah.
It's not as explored as well as other
I also think
allegories.
you have to take 40 years, nearly 40 years, 30-some years of Doctor Who and 7 years of Doctor Who, 8 years of Doctor Who, and probably once we do another 30 years, maybe there'll be as much allegory now as there was in the classic series.
That's very true. That's a good point.
But you're right. There is. You
Valid
can point to a lot more allegory in the classic series.
Valid point. I don't disagree with you. Like I said, the move to make this Doctor less human is exciting, and
it's fascinating.
It's fascinating to watch. And Capaldi, I don't know of anybody else that. I mean, well, obviously, we're kind of limited with what our choices are at this point, but I don't know of anybody else that I could see making me believe this as strongly as he is. You know what I mean? I mean, we've talked episode after episode after episode. I can't believe we're on season 8, or episode 8 already.
7.
7? I thought we were on 8.
Episode 7.
Is it only 7? Okay. Well, I can't believe we're on 7 already.
Last week was the halfway point.
That he is. We've talked week after week after week about how good an actor he is and how much he is embodying this and just really take no prisoners, grabbing the role by its bootstraps and running with it.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know of any. I'm flabbergasted just at how well this is. I'm at a loss for words. I can't come up with anything. You understand what I'm saying?
He's taken it, and I don't see anybody. It's not Peter Capaldi; it's the Doctor when I see him on screen.
Yeah.
But he's just embraced the role so well and ran with it and made it his own so much that it's just wonderful.
So I'm excited by this move to alienness, but I got to be honest, it does scare me, and I don't want to be that fan. I don't want to be that. Oh, I didn't like it because of this. Well, we've said before, Doctor Who is a show that evolves, and so I want to be on board for that. And I'm trying to find. I'm still searching. I'm still looking for those little nuggets of things to go, okay, I'm cool with this. And there were so many of them in this episode that I should have been. The yo-yo! They brought back the yo-yo for a gravity test. That was so cool.
But that was another thing. It took me a long time to get, and then it was finally done well with just one word, that the moon is put on weight. That's why, because he kept doing the jumping, and I kept thinking, they're coming up with they're going to come up with some stupid reason for why they're not lighter on the moon than they are on Earth. And I kept thinking, but
I like that he touched on it immediately. So we didn't start.
I kept thinking, are they going to give me some stupid answer so that they can explain why they didn't feel like they needed to do wire work or anything like that, or special effects here? And then when he said the moon's putting on weight, I went, well, I guess that would create more of a gravitational pull, because if it's got more mass, and so it wasn't until the revelation that the moon is an egg that was like, okay, that was okay. That it made the gravity thing okay. Here's my other
the
thing.
gravity thing didn't really strike me until they got out of the shuttle, because I initially thought, oh, well, it's just artificial gravity in the shuttle that they're on.
Yeah. The reason that I keep saying that 35 minutes of this was very done. And the last third of it, not even third, the last quarter of it is because I can't put my finger, that's not even I can't put my finger, I can't come up with a decision on this because everything that the doctor did was the right thing to do, and everything that Clara said was exactly right as well.
Yeah.
But the whole thing was still uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's just it. I think the doctor did exactly what he should have done. But I think Clara was exactly right for the reasons why he shouldn't. Yeah. And so I'm at this... this is one of these episodes that I'm at this... I don't know what to think. And I think that it was portrayed so well, and there was times that I was so angry and scared for Clara. Not really, but I mean, I was in that same boat with Clara when they were there to make the decision, and he ran off, and I thought, this is horrible that you left and you made it. And then he came back, and then he explained why he did it, and I went, oh yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That's what needed to be done. You needed to take the training wheels off. You needed. And then she gives her impassioned speech, and I'm back to why you dummy? Why'd you do? And I don't know what to feel. That was my problem. I got done with this episode, and I didn't know what to feel. I was so and then
I still don't.
And then I don't either. That's why I can't say my feelings on the last part of this episode.
This is going to be an episode that I predict we're going to go back and we're going to be talking about this one for years.
I can see why they said it was such a game changer.
Well, that was the weird thing is we got mostly through this episode, and I kept thinking, how is this going to be a game changer? How is this going to be... Oh,
this isn't just a fun romp.
And then I don't even... I'm so on board with Chrissy with the moon as an egg. That was the only thing that's really the only thing that bothered me about this was the moon needed to be an egg with something with a gestation period of 1 billion years in order for this story to be told, and in order for this story to be done in such a way that it was. But then there's the moon was an egg. And I'm the same way. I don't know. I don't. So I've got these two baffling things. What happened in that last 10 minutes? And the moon is an egg.
The moon hatched.
And I'm done reviewing this because I don't know what to do.
I am beyond flabbergasted that this is the hang-up here. Is that the moon is an egg.
You're fine with that.
I am so fine with that. We had a spider at the center of the planet Earth for
I didn't like
millions
that part.
of years. But it happened. Why not spiders on the moon?
No, they weren't spiders.
Oh, they weren't
being
spiders.
Jerks. Which, got creepy as heck, and I loved it. Man, the visuals were so good.
They never truly got a really good view of it.
I know, that was genius. Thank God.
And the line where the doctor's giving the orders, and then she says,
Who
put you in charge? He said, well, you say when to run. Well, you say when to run.
The spiders,
wonderful.
or the bacteria, or the whatever they're... Thank God that they had little red eyes all over them, whatever the glowing legs were.
Yeah. Oh,
because I have a problem with spiders. I
thought of you while watching this.
I do too.
There are moments like Harry Potter, when I read the book and then went to go see the movie and dreaded it because I knew there were going to be this big spider scene with Aragog, whatever. And the big one had no problem with.
I'm the same way. The bigger
little
they are,
had no problem with. But the ones that are the size of Volkswagens, I have.
The bigger they are, I'm fine with them. But as they start to get down smaller and smaller to realism size, the small ones you can step on.
Yeah,
but the ones that are the size of the car is like, what do you do?
So, and the same Return of the King. I went to Two Towers and sweated through 3 hours of that movie waiting for the spider to show up, and then the credits rolled and there was no spider, and I was like,
did too.
oh man, you're going to make me dread this another year, aren't you?
I did the same
And that
thing.
spider
That's not where that ends.
scared me. And the spiders in The Hobbit scared me.
See, I was more scared of the spiders in The Hobbit than the one in
They looked a
Return
little
of the King.
better.
So when this thing started, and of course Mel was the first person to pick up on it. They get to the thing and they go to the base, and she goes, "There's web on that. Did you see that?" And immediately I'm like, "Oh no!" Now there's a
Did your
part.
mind go to the Yetis at first?
I thought Yetis, and then I thought, because we're going to the scene of a previous adventure, so I thought Yetis, and then I thought, because I knew obviously as soon as they showed up on the moon and I recognized it as Lanzarote, I was like, throw that out, we're not going to Planet of Fire.
There was part of me that was like, but it's too rocky, it's too hilly, and then the moon is breaking up in these great crevices, and I'm like, okay, that fixes it just fine. This is a great location because
You've put a gray filter on that, and it looks like the moon. That is so cool.
if the moon were being broken apart.
It looks like the moon to me.
Otherwise, it would be,
Which it will be in
flat.
2049, so that's what we have to look forward to.
Yeah. But after the Yeti, my next thought was, oh, maybe they're bringing back the spiders. And then I thought, oh, God, we haven't watched that one with Keith yet.
Planet of Spiders.
We can't do Planet of Spiders. And I was like, I hope this isn't Planet of Spiders. And then they get inside and there's more web. And then the thing started scuttling. And
Oh, that was sufficiently
it
creepy.
was
That was so good.
horrible. And then the thing jumped on them, and it was scary. And like you said, they filmed it wonderful direction. It was filmed in such a way you never really got a good look at this thing. But thank God somebody in the design department said we're going to make their legs glow red,
Otherwise
because
you couldn't see 'em.
I wouldn't have been able to handle it.
Guess
I
what?
really don't think I'd have been able to make it through this episode.
One of
if
the
that had
first
been the case.
anthropomorphized aliens that I didn't have a problem with. I was
They
like,
weren't anthropomorphized.
I was like, that's fine.
They didn't talk.
No.
He's
Anthropomorphized.
got you there.
Yeah, you got a point.
They weren't a walking, talking, sentient creatures.
All right,
they were
but,
bugs.
They
They were space bugs.
One
Literally.
unimaginative change,
Okay.
because that's what they also do, is they create earthbound things that we're familiar with, and then they make them alien, and they call them aliens, and a lot of things I have that problem as well.
What was the? It almost brought to mind Pacific Rim and the parasites that were dropping off the Jaegers.
Yeah.
or not the Jaegers. The
Kaiju.
Kaiju. Yeah, that's kind of it's the same idea. So
Yeah.
I was totally on board with
Yeah,
that.
that was cool. And then when the
Well,
doc-
even
I'll
Cloverfield
take your
had
word
that.
for that. I still haven't seen Pacific Rim.
You wanna
and then when
borrow?
the doctor finds the amniotic fluid and goes diving over the hill into that, it was like, oh, City of Death. You know, there's so many little things in this that were like,
You
yeah,
went
it was like
jumping
that.
in.
And then I know what's in the egg. It's a space chicken.
A little too big for a space chicken.
No, it's the mama space chicken. The
The
baby goes to haunt Vincent.
I don't think
That's
so.
what was in the moon. Was space chicken.
I think it's
They kept equating it to an egg or to a chicken. It's not a chicken.
Don't ruin this beautiful moment, Courtney.
That was the other thing that I liked, that Courtney was there to dumb down the science for us. That was another thing. It was a great use of her character.
The character was used really,
to
really
be the
well.
one, the moon is an egg. What, you mean like a chicken? No, it's not like a chicken.
Well, and then she gave the line of, "If a chicken laid that, how big is the chicken?"
No.
I wonder if it's some of the same species as the space whale from Beast Below, because that's a huge creature
Yeah.
to be in space. I mean, maybe that's a cousin.
Okay.
What's the gestation period of the space whale?
I don't know. Don't poke brains. Don't poke its
More
brains.
importantly, what's the gestation period of a space buffalo?
Oh, God.
Not long enough. The brain didn't develop.
All right. And the last thing I'll say about this, and now I feel really bad because you made the abortion analogy, but I was the same way as Phil. I was in the same position as the astronaut, as I thought, you know what? If this was my decision, I probably would have decided the same way.
Well,
Just due to the mere fact that you've been cohabitating in our space for 1 billion years, and life has flourished and grown and taken over Earth, and if there's any chance that you hatching to become life for something that's been in gestation for 1 billion years, I would make the decision to save humanity over one life
Well,
in an egg that's been circling the moon or circling the Earth for billions of years.
How many times in science fiction have we gotten the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and that's the right answer? So, as science fiction fans, we're more likely to lean that way anyways. Because how many times have we seen that?
I thought as Dickens fans we were supposed to lean that.
Either way.
Which sometimes is science fiction, as we know.
It's one of those...
Ghosts!
Yeah.
It's Space Whale, the needs of that one versus the people in the thing. There's so many things. Now, I struggled with it watching it because there's we commented a little bit on the point.
It's the allegory that it's a baby is where it gets kind of trickier.
Not necessarily. Just from the standpoint that as a viewer, I'm watching Doctor Who. I know what the right answer is. The right answer is you save the life. That's always the right answer in this show. As a science fiction fan, I'm with you going, well, but the needs of the many, there's no real risk here. As a military fiction fan, anytime we involve nukes, it ends badly. We blow stuff up all the time in movies, and it always comes back to bite us in the butt.
They did this right by having the Doctor qualify that what they had planned would work. So if the Doctor
qualified that it would kill it. But I'm thinking more Armageddon style, that the fragments of moon rock come cascading down the planet.
He says that their plan would work with minimal damage.
Oh, did he specifically say that? I must have zoned out on that.
I'm paraphrasing.
Some collateral damage,
he said there would be some collateral, but it would work.
Dead body floating in space.
Yeah. And he said the moon would still exist as is, but it would be, the body would, the
corpse would be reform the...
And then also going to the monster movies of even if they don't have malicious intent, they're hungry and want to feed, they're going to come to the next biggest body. Except that flashed in my mind too.
It went through all of these peaks and valleys with, oh man, what is the right decision here?
Yeah.
And when they came up with the, on with the lights, off with the lights, and they were all on, and they were all on, and they were all on, and then they started to go dark, and I had that sinking pit of my stomach. Humans are so dumb. I got angry all over again. That was like, why? Everybody turning off their lights like Transformers.
That was a little... Yeah.
It was heartbreaking to watch.
I'll tell you, though...
But I'm with you guys. I probably would have pushed the button.
Here's the thing, though, is... And this is probably a terrible, terrible analogy, but this is the only one that I can come up with. When your child gets lice, there's usually only a few adults. And those are easy to take care of and get rid of.
It's the babies.
The bad thing about lice is the eggs that are left behind, because those things will hatch and they will become adults, and then you'll have an infestation. So I equated it to that idea that when you have to take care of a lice problem, the majority of a lice problem is killing the babies, is killing the eggs, is taking care of the eggs and getting rid of those. And so when I put it in that sense, in my mind, that's the same way of you have to get rid of the problem at its base where it becomes worse if you allow the egg to survive. That made it easier for me to decide.
Or finding a spider's nest.
Those you kill.
You get rid of the
kill those babies too.
You kill the spiders. I bounced again with there's no funding, and we didn't want to go back into space, and so we had to pull this shuttle out of mothballs.
I didn't really like the idea.
We had to get retired astronauts to come up here for this.
They cut the back off of it.
Yeah,
that's right.
It hit so close to. Well, you want to talk what's going on right now? There's your allegory. There's no space program.
I love that this
anymore.
is the event also that sends humans back into Earth.
And then
that was a great moment.
Space.
Yeah, space. Yeah, back into space.
I knew what you meant. I just like
to go from.
They went Jules Verne. They went inside the Earth.
To go from that moment.
We gotta go in here.
See if the Earth's an egg.
Let's make sure this is an egg too.
There's a spider at the center of the Earth. I keep telling you. But yeah, to go from that, oh man, to this is the moment that people witnessed and went, okay,
it was cool.
We've got that. That cool. Fixed so much of. And again, that's when the Doctor came back and was like, dancing on the sand, and it was a thing. And yeah, you can do this, and you can tell. I like how it's almost like he closes his eyes in that gray area that he was talking about that he couldn't necessarily foresee, and it was almost like a new info dump had been downloaded into his memory. That now that this moment has passed, he has access to know what's going on. And I thought that was really cool.
And I thought it was a really great way to explain how Time Lords don't always, because they've never really given us a good explanation of why they don't. Some things are fuzzy.
Well,
this is a great way to
always talk
describe
about fixed points in time and how the Time Lord always can identify that this is a fixed point and has to happen. But I love the idea that we kind of took that and did a whole different. There are great points in time that we don't know if this has to happen or not, and so that was neat. I agree with you, Keith.
And we've talked before about how it's nice to not necessarily have the all-knowing doctor. That, well, this is where the blah 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 universe is, and this is we're going to do this, and it's a such and such alien, and we have to do this, and watch out, they like the color green. And some of that is cool because it's Doctor Who, and we like that. Then there's other times when
always
it's
had
like
that, though. I think that's the thing that people miss is that we've always had a doctor that the reason he's out exploring the galaxy is because he's learning as much as anybody else.
Yeah.
And he does not know 100%. He doesn't even know 90%. He may have a good 80% of knowledge, maybe even 75%. But he's still that scientist that's always doing these experiments and finding out new things.
And it was, I know,
it was just nice getting a return to that.
Yes.
Compared to 10 and 11 who
just kind of seem to know everything.
Who seem to know everything, and even 9.
Although 11, I think there was a little bit more times I can think of where he was like, I don't know what this is, and
I would agree, and I don't think you're just saying that because he's your doctor.
No, I think you're right.
When in doubt, 11 is your answer.
I think there were a lot of moments, and there were a lot more moments with 11 where he was prone to be wrong about something too, which is very Paul McGann, 8th Doctor audios. When he starts berating himself, stupid doctor.
Maybe that's why I like 8 so much. Is the similarities?
There are some.
It's what I like about 11 is the same thing presence in A's.
So it was nice to get that, and so it's like, oh, cool. And then we immediately follow that up with the Clara conversation in the TARDIS. And it was that gut punch again of this, I was the yo-yo in this episode. Up, down, up, down, up, down. I liked Danny's reaction. I liked that he was supportive. Reaction. I liked that he was honest. You're not through with him yet because you're still angry, and rational, but not... Frequently, you see quarreling couples, and at least it's been my experience that if you come off as logically it should be this, that's not going to end well for you. You should just back off that right there. But I like that there was just enough logic in it to kind of get her to see his point without hammering over the head with it, And I like the fact that he knew instantly that was what had happened. That she got pushed, and it's got to be. We talked a little bit last week about the back and forth with her in the TARDIS and then going back to work and that kind of stuff. This had to be just... Can you imagine? Was this the start of the school day?
It seemed like it.
She still had then, 8 hours of classes to teach coming off of that?
That's going to suck. That's when this kind of life is like, wait, should I...
I mean...
Pick one or the other.
Yeah. Wow. Because it's one thing to, sneak off for tea and then come back. And, I just had a 16-day vacation and I could come back and finish my day. But I almost got killed on the moon and blew up a chicken and
made one of the most important decisions of my life.
And now I have to teach English. I mean, that's rough. That's a rough day. So
puts teaching in perspective.
I wouldn't want to go to the video store after making that decision, let alone teach English. So. Yeah, that was really rough. And just from the preview, it looks like maybe Clara's not in the next episode, or at least not very much. It seemed like it was very...
Clara Light.
Clara Light, it looks like it.
Yeah.
Although from the synopsis I've seen, I don't know if I believe it. So I don't know.
This was the first week that I didn't watch the preview. It wasn't a conscious effort. We just shut it off, and I think because we were...
What did the girls think?
I didn't really get a flavor from them. Holly did mention that she had a lot of the problems you had, just in the sense that it didn't really. And she wasn't sure what to think about this doctor, because she said, she's not enjoying this style of doctor. But she started at 9 and
so she's very used to
went through 10 and went through 11. So this is a drastic change for her.
She doesn't even have the anchor of its first doctor to go back to, really.
Exactly, and so she's also she said, I'm not going to stop watching it because I'm not enjoying this doctor. So she's ready to play it out and see where it goes. So Caitlin didn't say much about it. I think Caitlin was just more kind of rode the wave. She's not hating this series, but she hasn't been wowed by it either, I don't think.
I do think it is a nice change of pace for the emotional aspects of the show to switch from kind of heartbreak and what we had previously in the new series to kind of explore different emotional aspects to the characters, more than, oh no, I lost the love of my life, etc., etc. Which I think is a nice change of pace, even from Smith's era.
Yeah.
It just feels a little bit more, I don't know. I don't want to say grown up, but that's the only word that comes to mind. It doesn't feel as angsty. It feels like real emotion instead of, oh no, Rose is trapped in another world and I'll never see her again. Or the doctor doesn't like me.
Don't be a hater.
Or I will never live up to the previous companion, so I'm not good here, so I'm going to leave. Sort of stuff. It feels more core of a person emotional reasoning than we previously have gotten.
I can see that.
So there, I wasn't just a Rose hater.
I know.
And you know how much I like Martha. So.
But you are.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to open that can of worms again. We're just going to let that puppy lie.
Mostly because I like poking the bears.
Anything else that we want to?
No. It's usually me ending the conversation, not Sean.
I
think we've covered everything.
I kind of got the sense that you were done.
I'm done. I'm done.
And, I'm sure Keith and I
still not going to give it a done.
I'm sure Keith and I could wax philosophic about the moon being an egg and the gestation period of space chickens for a while, but...
The brilliance of a yo-yo. I turned to Sarah after that showed up, and I said, every doctor should have a yo-yo.
Oh, yeah.
It's a shame it's been this long since we've seen it.
It hasn't. It's been since Tom, right?
Yeah.
Since we really, at least for gravitational purposes anyway.
Right.
I don't even remember non-gravitational purposes.
I don't remember anybody else really playing with a yo-yo.
Maybe Peter Davison in his pockets.
Yeah, did Davison pull it out when he was in, what was it, the Visitation? Or what was the
Fort of Doomsday?
Fort of Doomsday.
He didn't try to yo-yo his way back to the spaceship.
Yeah, no. Cricket ball.
The cricket ball's so yum. That's what we're... I don't know. Like I said, I get the feeling this is going to be...
This definitely feels like the turning point of the series, more so than last week.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, last week was just the
I
beginning.
still need to write down my prediction. Put it in an envelope.
Yeah.
You better hurry.
We're
Well, I wondered about this week, and I went, wow.
We're rapidly running up a series here.
We're all right. All right. Well, Sean, what do we got coming up on the schedule?
Well, coming up on the schedule is the 10th of October, which is a Friday or Saturday, depending on how you want to look at it, since we start at midnight. We do Friday Night Who. Once again, if you are available, please join us this week.
10th of October is still a Friday. No matter how you
Technically,
look at
we start on the 11th.
Right.
Right.
So no matter how you look at it, it is, no matter who you are, the 10th is still Friday.
Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. You know I'm not good with this. So. On Friday at midnight, which is actually Saturday, this week we're going to be watching The Pyramids of Mars with Tom Baker. This one should be much easier for everybody to get a hold of. Because there was
on Netflix.
There was even a little bit of angst amongst our group as to whether or not we were going to be able to join in for Planet of Fire this week. Who owns
I just had it in my head from the beginning. Why would I own that? That one's on moratorium. That's one of the ones I didn't pick up. I don't own that. I mean, it's got to be Sean. It's got to be Sean. And it wasn't until he said, "Did Sean text you?" And I went, "No, why?" And he goes, "Well, do you own Planet of Fire?" And I went, "No, I don't own Planet of Fire. It's got to be." And I didn't realize you guys were having this eternal debate as to who had Planet of Fire.
I just had one text from him asking that, and that made me question because I knew I didn't have
He
it.
sent me a text later on and said, "Are you sure? I've looked at my shelf and I've looked at my database and I don't have it." And he said database, and I thought, "Oh, why haven't I done that?" So I went and looked at my database on my phone and went, "Oh, I do own Planet."
Well, my quote, what I said to you was, "Well, Sean's collection's grown so big, he doesn't know what he has and what he doesn't."
You're right. It really has
say
gotten to
that.
that point. And so I went downstairs and looked on the shelf, and it wasn't there. I went, "Oh, I don't think I own that one." No. And so I don't own it. You must own it. That's the way this works, right? And then
My collection's very small.
I sent you a text and said, "Hey, is that one of the ones that you picked up?" And you're like, "Nope." Uh-oh. So then my next thought was maybe I did buy it and I loaned it to somebody, but I didn't have an index card there in the placement. So I went back down and then looked, and I thought, well, maybe I put it out of place. That's how panicked I was. So I went and checked the whole shelf just to make sure, and I looked at all the Davidsons, and then I looked on the bakers and the bakers on either side of the Davidsons, and it wasn't there. And I went, I don't think I loaned it to anybody. So then I went and pulled up the database, and the database says, "Hey, you don't own that." And I went, aha. So then I asked you, and you were like, "I don't own it." And Glenn's like, "I don't own it." And I was like, well, how the heck did we watch this stupid thing last time we did this? Because I remember watching this last year. So, yeah, there was that.
Yeah.
But we got it sorted, so...
So I made an 11:15 delivery to Sean's house so that it was there in time for Friday night.
We thank you very much for that.
Absolutely.
Still, it's such a good story.
It is good.
But next week, we are watching... I forgot what we're watching. Pyramids of Mars. With Tom Baker, Sarah
Do you
Jane.
own that?
I do own that one.
And it's
I
on
do too.
Netflix.
And it's on Netflix. And it's...
And I own it.
I think on Hulu.
I'm sure
It
it's
is
on
on
Hulu. I don't think it's on Amazon Prime. I can check.
It is widely available. So if you are available and up at midnight on Friday, please join us. Follow the hashtags for Friday Night Who and Pyramids of Mars, and it's at Travel Vortex. And we will have a live tweet along, and it promises to be a lot of fun. And of course, we are watching that one on Friday, even though we've already reviewed it, because Season 8's episode is Mummy on the Orient Express. And, well, that's the only other one that we could think of that had mummies in it. So
Oh, I did see the
It
preview.
is on.
We did watch the
Amazon
preview
Prime.
for this. I must have just spaced it out.
you were still gut punched.
Now I do remember it.
Or bewildered that the moon was
Yeah.
an egg.
And I remember seeing this and going, "Oh no!"
Really?
Yeah,
Really? I was kind of surprised. Well, we'll get into it.
It kind of reminded me of Voyage of the Damned. That premise, the whole premise around.
Oh, ships in space, trains in space. I got you. And I didn't. I always manage to do this, and it's not until after that the schedule's posted that I go back and look, because I'm trying to keep us, kind of bouncing around a little bit, and not do too many of the same era and the same time frame and stuff like that. And didn't realize that we managed to go 5, 4, and then next week is 3, because we're doing Carnival of Monsters the following week. And then the episode 9, Flatline, will be our review. $199. And then we're coming up on the big 200 anniversary.
Oh, episodes. I thought you meant how much it costs. $1.99.
$1.99. Are you out of your mind? So then we'll be doing the Dr. Widow and the Wardrobe for our Friday night on the 24th of October. And then reviewing In the Forest of the Night, which the only thing that we could think of to pair those two together was because there's a forest in them, supposedly. So we'll see how well that plays out, too. This has been... I'm not going to go. The Friday Night Who pairings have been a little rough this season. We'll say that. But so that kind of takes us up through October. And again, if you're available, please join us. Well, not all the way up through October, because we're actually doing Friday Night Who on Halloween. And not doing a Halloween episode, unfortunately, because we're going to start the invasion. But yeah, I guess the invasion is...
The one year that we're actually doing Friday on Halloween.
Yeah, I know.
You know what we're not doing? War of the Worlds.
Yeah, because we're doing Friday night. Ooh.
Well, I'm also working that Friday, and so I was kind of looking at the schedule, trying to decide where I would schedule a War of the Worlds party, and I'm not 100% for sure certain that it won't happen. But we didn't do it last year either. We just got busy. So. But that makes I'm Jones and Ford all the more. So there's that.
War of the Worlds Titan is on Netflix.
Did you watch it yet?
I did watch it.
What'd you think?
Oh, it was okay.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was all right. I didn't love it as much as you did.
Well, I
picked it up from the library and watched it long ago and forgot to mention it. That's how much of an impact it had on me. I'm sorry, I just didn't love it. It was okay. I just didn't care about the characters.
It could have been better. I'm not going to say that, yeah. But the concept wise, I agree. Cool.
Execution,
yeah. That going to do it for this week?
Transformers sucks.
If it is, until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm sorry, I just had this image of you yelling, "I'm a space buffalo." It's just, we'll have to put in the show notes. We'll have to put the link to that episode for people who are going, "What is with the space buffalo?" If you're joining us late,
that's what we submitted for our Parsec Award.
We did. We submitted because that's a podcast masterpiece. There,
anything that's us, it's space buffaloes.
Space buffaloes. And Merc is oh my. I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
The moon is an egg.
Be seeing you.
Say it's only a paper moon sailing over a cardboard sea, but it wouldn't be make-believe if you believed in me.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.
But it wouldn't be make-believe if you believed in me.